The rain wouldn't stop that night, pouring like bullets onto the rusting rooftops of Outpost Delta 3. It was supposed to be a peaceful research station, tucked away in the outer rim of the Andral expanse. The human crew stationed there had grown used to quiet days filled with data logs, weather scans, and synthetic coffee. No one expected a war to arrive by storm cloud. Private Jordan Vance was just a logistics officer. He wasn't trained for frontline combat. He'd barely passed marksmanship drills. But when the sky split open with thunder and alien drop pods slammed into the swampy ground, his instincts took over. He grabbed a rifle and rushed toward the command center. Explosions rattled the earth beneath his boots. From the edge of the forest came tall shadows, warriors in dark red armor, tall and blue-skinned, their faces cold and unblinking. The Valari, a species known for ancient blood oaths and merciless honor duels, had never been this far into human space. No warnings, no declarations. Just death raining from the skies. The outpost defenses fell quickly. Human soldiers screamed. Overcomes. The AI couldn't keep up with the number of incoming threats. Jordan dove behind wreckage, clutching his rifle with shaking hands. He saw one of his squad mates torn apart by an energy blade, blood mixing with rain on the soaked metal. Flooring. He had no idea why the Valari were here. No one did. Earth had treaties in place. The Valari were supposed to honor the ancient codes, but something had changed. Jordan felt it in the way their warriors moved, not like an army, but like hunters. They weren't just here to kill. They were searching for something. While retreating through a flooded corridor, Jordan spotted something unusual. A large, canine-like creature padded silently across the broken walkway. Its body shimmered with a strange silver hue, eyes glowing faintly red. It paused and turned toward him, sniffing the air. Unlike the others, it didn't attack. It just stared at him. Jordan froze. The creature looked like a predator, but it didn't growl or charge. Then it turned and darted back the way it came, pausing at a corner to look back at him. It was almost like it wanted him to follow. Against all logic, he did. The trail led him into a crumbling storage bay, half flooded and filled with smoke. The dog thing barked once, then rushed forward. Jordan cautiously followed through the rubble and debris. Then he saw her. Lying face down in a pool of rainwater and blood was a Valari female, her red cape torn and soaked. Her blue skin was cracked and bruised, and her armor bore deep slashes across the plating. She was clearly a warrior, but not like the others. She was younger, her expression soft beneath the pain. And she was dying. The creature whimpered beside her, licking her face gently. Jordan didn't understand. Why would a war beast drag a human to its master? Why him? What did it want? The girl looked up with half-lidded eyes, her voice barely a whisper. The translator in his ear picked up only one word. Help. Jordan hesitated. Protocol said to secure hostiles, especially wounded ones. But something about her made him pause. She didn't reach for a weapon. She didn't scream threats. She just lay there, breathing raggedly, hand reaching out to him like a plea. He dropped to one knee beside her, pressing a hand to her side. Blood was leaking from a deep wound under her armor. She grimaced but didn't resist. The creature paced anxiously beside them. It growled softly, not at Jordan, but at the storm outside. Time was running out. He pulled out a med pack from his belt and began sealing the wound as best he could. His fingers trembled as he worked. He didn't know if he was doing it right. He didn't even know if Valari biology matched human medical kits. But she didn't push him away. She just stared into his eyes, lips parted as if confused by his kindness. The storm roared louder. Explosions lit up the windows in the far hallway. The outpost was falling. Jordan knew that staying would mean death. But if he left her behind, she would bleed out. The creature howled once, as if demanding a decision. And so, without thinking further, He lifted the alien girl into his arms. She was heavier than she looked, armor slick and cold. The creature followed closely, tail stiff, and eyes alert. Jordan ran toward the lower tunnels, praying the emergency exit hadn't collapsed. He didn't know what kind of war he'd just walked into. He didn't know why the pet had chosen him. But deep inside, something told him this wasn't just about a wounded alien. It was about something far more dangerous. And far more human. Jordan's boots splashed through inches of water as the tunnel lights flickered overhead. The emergency corridor twisted beneath the outpost like a spine of steel and shadow. Behind him, the alien beast padded silently, its glowing eyes watching him carry the wounded warrior through the storm-racked dark. She stirred slightly in his arms. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Her blood had soaked through the bandages he wrapped around her ribs. He didn't know how long she had left. He didn't know if this was a trap. But somehow he felt she wasn't lying when she asked for help. A distant boom shook the floor. Dust rained from the ceiling. The outpost above was crumbling. The humans were losing. The Valari invasion had struck with no mercy, no warning. If there was any rescue coming, it hadn't been sent yet. Jordan pressed on, every step fueled by instinct and adrenaline. The beast, some kind of hybrid between wolf and lizard, growled lowly as they passed broken machinery and fallen crates. It didn't seem hostile, only alert. Jordan risked a glance at its collar. There were runes carved into the metal, symbols that didn't match any Valari language he knew. This creature was not a common pet. It was something older. They reached the lower hangar bay. Half the shuttles were already destroyed. Fire lit the edges of the platform, casting flickering light across the rain-streaked glass. Jordan set the girl down gently beside a fuel crate. Her eyes fluttered open again. This time she spoke more clearly. "Why?" she asked through cracked lips. "You are enemy. Why save me?" Jordan sat back against the wall, panting hard. He wiped rain and blood from his brow. His answer was simple. "Because you didn't kill me. And your dog didn't either. That's something." She looked confused, perhaps even ashamed. She turned her head away, eyes fixed on the metal floor. The creature sat beside her, resting its muzzle near her hand. It whimpered once, a quiet sound in the storm of falling war. "What's your name?" Jordan asked softly. She hesitated. Her voice was hoarse but proud. "Sivara, daughter of Kael'zen, commander of the Red Flame Battalion." Jordan blinked. He knew that name. Kael'zen was the Valari warlord responsible for a dozen destroyed colonies, a tactician feared across 6 systems. If she was his daughter, then Jordan wasn't just sitting beside any wounded soldier. He was helping royalty. A potential prisoner of war. "You shouldn't have helped me," Sivara whispered. Jordan didn't answer. He checked the medpack again, reapplying pressure to her side. She winced but didn't fight him. Her skin was burning up. Infection was setting in. They needed shelter, antibiotics, food. None of which existed in this wreck of an outpost. Then the creature growled again, but this time not in warning. It moved to the far side of the bay, toward a sealed door marked Sector 9. It scratched at the surface, tail flicking. Jordan stood, gripping his rifle. He tapped the door controls. Locked. He used his override code. The panel buzzed red. "Denied." Sivara looked up weakly. "It leads to our relic chamber. Forbiddens to outsiders." Jordan stared at her. "Your beast wants us in there." "Why?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The beast barked once, pawing at the floor again. Whatever was inside, it wasn't just a relic. It was important. Maybe important enough to get them both killed. He looked back at Sivara. Her breath was ragged, her face pale under the blue. She wouldn't last much longer in the open. He had a choice. Leave her here, or follow the war beast into Forbidden's Valari secrets. He should have chosen logic. He should have stayed out. But something about this night had broken every rule already. He walked toward the door, pulled a plasma cutter from a fallen engineer's bag, and began slicing through the lock. Sparks flew. The smell of burning metal filled the bay. Sivara watched him silently. The creature stood beside him, tense with anticipation. As the door hissed open, a rush of warm air spilled out, smelling of incense and old stone. Inside, the chamber was carved from dark rock, shaped with runes and alien glyphs. In the center stood a dais, and on it a glowing crystal sphere pulsed with crimson light. Jordan stepped in slowly, rifle ready. The creature stayed close. Sivara coughed behind him, struggling to rise. "What is it?" he asked. "Memory core," Sivara rasped. "The truth of our war. My father, he betrayed our code." "This proves it." Jordan turned slowly. "You mean this war wasn't ordered by the council?" She shook her head. "No, it was personal. A vendetta. He sent us to die. I defied him. That's why he left me to bleed." The realization hit Jordan like a blast to the chest. She wasn't a victim of war. She was a traitor to her own kind for standing against it. The creature hadn't dragged him to a master. It had led him to the one being who might stop a greater war, and now he was part of it. The crystal pulsed like a living heart, casting red light on the chamber walls. Jordan stepped closer, rifle still slung over his shoulder. The warmth of the room eased the cold in his bones, but the weight of what Sivara had said made his chest tighten. He looked back toward her. She was leaning against the wall now, holding her side, her breath shallow but steady. The creature stood protectively beside her, eyes darting between them. It didn't speak, but its presence felt louder than words. "What do I do with it?" Jordan asked, pointing at the crystal. Sivara's voice was faint. "Touch it. It will show you." Jordan hesitated. He didn't trust alien tech, but something in the way the beast watched him made him move forward. He placed a hand on the smooth surface of the sphere. It was warm. Too warm. Then the room shifted, his mind filled with images. Valari fleets descending on peaceful planets. Fires raining down on civilian colonies. Screams, orders, chaos. At the center of it all stood a tall Valari warlord, Kale Zen, his voice booming through war cruiser decks. This was not a mission of defense. It was revenge. Kale Zen's brother had died in a trade dispute on a neutral world. The council had ruled it an accident. But Kale Zen had declared blood debt. The kind that erased diplomacy. Sivara had argued against him. Publicly, she was branded disloyal and left to die in the invasion's first wave. Jordan stepped back, gasping. The images faded. He looked at her again, and this time, he didn't see an enemy soldier. He saw a survivor, a truth bearer, and maybe a chance to stop more killing. "We need to get this to someone who can use it," he said. Sivara nodded. "The Human Valari Peace Tribunal, stationed on Orlis 9. If they see it, they will know the war is illegal." Jordan helped her to her feet. She stumbled once, then steadied herself on his shoulder. Her armor clanked as she moved. The beast nudged her legs softly, like it understood the weight of the task. They moved quickly. The chamber sealed behind them. Outside, the hangar bay was burning. A section of the roof had collapsed, but one shuttle remained intact. Jordan rushed forward, overriding the hatch. He powered up the systems, fuel low, shields cracked. But it could fly. He helped Sivara into the co-pilot seat and secured the memory core inside a containment locker. The beast jumped in behind them, curling on the floor between the seats. Jordan strapped in, hands flying across the controls. Above them, the storm still raged. Valari ships hovered like vultures, picking off survivors. Jordan gritted his teeth and launched the shuttle through the fire. The sky was a furnace. Enemy fighters circled like predators, alarms blared. The shuttle shook violently. Sivara was pale beside him, but her hand gripped the edge of her seat with strength. She whispered a single word, "Left." He turned hard, just as a plasma bolt ripped past the window. The shuttle screamed as it dodged between falling debris. The creature growled behind them. Jordan could feel the heat of pursuit closing in. But ahead, the clouds broke, a glimpse of stars. A chance. He punched the jump drive. The system hesitated. Sparks flew. Then the engine caught. In one breath, the shuttle vanished into hyperspace, leaving the ruins behind. Inside the cabin, silence returned. Jordan slumped back, heart pounding. The girl beside him exhaled slowly. Her eyes fluttered shut, but there was no anger. No threat. Just exhaustion. The creature moved closer and curled beside her armor-clad legs. It seemed peaceful for the first time since he had met it. Jordan looked at the stars on the screen. They had a destination, but no idea what waited there. He didn't know if anyone on Orlis 9 would believe them. He didn't know if peace was even possible, but he had seen the truth. And the truth was more powerful than any weapon. He looked at the girl again. She had once been trained to destroy humans. Now she trusted one to carry her story. And that, Jordan realized, changed everything. Orlis 9 looked nothing like the war-torn planets Jordan had seen in his service years. It was a floating peace station above a sapphire gas giant, surrounded by clouds that shimmered in gold and blue, a symbol of neutrality and fragile hope. The shuttle docked with burnt wings and cracked hull, but it made it. Jordan stepped onto the landing bay with the memory core in a case strapped to his back. Sivara leaned on him as they moved down the platform, her armor scraped and blood-stained. The alien beast stayed close, its eyes wary of every guard in sight. No one knew what they carried. The tribunal hall was vast and quiet. White floors, silver arches, banners of every known species hanging in still air. Guards raised weapons as they saw Sivara, but Jordan raised a hand and spoke clearly. "She's not here to fight. She's here to speak." The guards hesitated. The creature growled lowly. Tension filled the space like a stretched wire. Then, a tribunal officer stepped forward. An old Villari in golden robes. His eyes landed on Sivara, and then on the wound across her side. "You are Kale Zen's daughter." She nodded slowly. "I carry the truth. And the one who helped me lives by your honor." Jordan held out the case. The officer opened it carefully. As the crystal began to glow, his expression changed. He watched it for a long time without a word. Then he motioned them forward. Inside the main chamber, voices rose in anger. Alien representatives argued in 20 languages. Some shouted for retribution. Others demanded retreat. When Sivara entered, silence fell. She stepped into the light. Her voice did not shake. She spoke of the invasion, of her father's betrayal, of the war started for personal vengeance. And then she pointed at the human beside her. "This one could have left me to die. Instead, he carried me through fire to tell you the truth. If an enemy can see our honor better than our own blood, then perhaps we have lost our way." Gasps spread across the chamber. Some Villari delegates lowered their eyes. Others clenched their fists, but none spoke against her. Jordan could feel the weight of centuries pressing down on everyone in the room. The elder in gold stood slowly. "We will verify this memory core. If it speaks truth, Kale Zen will be stripped of command and tried before the 5 worlds." Jordan exhaled. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was a beginning. Sivara nodded once and turned to leave. As they reached the hallway, a voice called after them. "You risked your life for one of our enemies. Why?" Jordan stopped. He looked back, rainwater still staining his boots and uniform. His answer was simple. Because she wasn't the enemy. She just got caught in her father's war. Back at the docking bay, they waited for news. The creature curled near Sivara's feet. She sat quietly, helmet on her lap. Her eyes stared into the distance. Jordan didn't speak. He knew what silence meant when someone had lost everything. After hours, a messenger arrived. The tribunal believes her. Kale Zen is in custody. Velari forces have been ordered to stand down. Sivara closed her eyes, not in joy, not in triumph, but in relief. The blood of her people would no longer be spilled for pride. And the man beside her had made it possible. Jordan sat beside her. He didn't smile. He just leaned back against the wall and let the stillness of the moment settle in. The creature licked her hand once, then rested its head between its paws. For the first time since the war began, it seemed like peace was not a fantasy, and yet none of them knew what would come next. Jordan thought they would be allowed to rest. But peace, it seemed, was not given so easily. The tribunal's decision had been broadcast to the Allied systems, but Kale Zen still had loyal forces scattered across the stars, and not all Velari believed the truth. 3 days after the ruling, a small group of ships broke off from the Velari fleet and declared rebellion. They accused the tribunal of betrayal. They named Sivara a traitor. They placed a bounty on her head and marked Jordan. As a collaborator, the station's security increased. Armed escorts followed them through every corridor. Jordan kept his weapon close. Sivara didn't speak much. She stayed in a room lit by soft blue light, reading old war texts and touching the edges of her healing scars. The creature never left. Her side, it growled at anyone who came too close. Except Jordan. It allowed him near without complaint. Sometimes it even rested its head on his boots, like they had always belonged there. One night, alarms blared through the station. A stealth ship had breached the outer shields. Explosions rocked the lower levels. Civilians were evacuated. Guards scrambled into position. Jordan rushed to Sivara's room, rifle ready. She was already standing when he arrived. Her armor was back on, her cape torn but fastened. Her hand rested on the creature's head. She looked calm, not afraid, not angry. "Just ready, we have to move," Jordan said. "I'm not running again," she replied. "Then fight with me," he said. She nodded once. Together, they sprinted through the halls as lights flickered and smoke filled the air. The beast ran ahead, teeth bared. They found the attackers in the east wing, dressed in rogue Velari armor, weapons hot and voices shouting for vengeance. Sivara stepped into the light and shouted her father's name. The attackers froze. For a moment, even the fires seemed to go quiet. Then one of them raised a blade and charged. Jordan moved first. His shots were fast and sharp. The creature leapt with a snarl, pinning one enemy to the ground. Sivara faced her attacker alone. Their blades met with a flash of sparks. Metal screamed against metal. She fought with purpose, with pain, with something that had been broken and reforged in fire. The fight was short, brutal. When it ended, intruders lay on the floor, some dead, some wounded. Sivara stood above them, chest rising and falling slowly. Her blade dripped with blood. Jordan looked at her and said nothing. She turned to the others. "Go, tell the rest. This war is over. My father's shadow will not return." The wounded soldiers hesitated. Then they dropped their weapons. One of them whispered a word Jordan didn't understand, but it sounded like apology. Later, the tribunal thanked them. Again. But Jordan didn't care about thanks. He only cared that Sivara still stood. That the beast still watched the stars through the observation glass. That maybe, just maybe, the storm had finally passed, but peace was fragile. And they both knew it. The tribunal declared the rogue faction defeated, and the Velari Council confirmed Sivara's pardon. She was no longer a fugitive. Her name was cleared. Her father remained imprisoned in the core cells of Orlis 9, silent and alone. Yet the wounds he caused still echoed across the systems. Sivara chose not to return to her home world. She told the council that her people needed time to heal without her title. She laid down her command and walked away from the war she had. Once sworn to lead, some called her a deserter. Others called her a peacemaker. Jordan called her brave. The tribunal offered Jordan a commendation and transfer back to Earth. He refused. He said he had more to do here, that his place wasn't back home yet. Sivara didn't question his choice. She only nodded when he moved his things to a quiet sector near the edge of the station. They lived simply. Morning started with silence, broken only by the soft footsteps of the creature as it stretched across the polished floor. Jordan spent his time helping with refugee records. Sivara trained younger officers in diplomacy and restraint. The war had taken much, but it had not taken purpose. One evening, as the station orbited the gas giant in perfect calm, Sivara joined Jordan on the outer deck. The sky burned orange and blue. Stars blinked quietly above them. She stood beside him, armor traded for a long cloak. Her voice was soft. "Do you miss Earth?" Jordan smiled. "Sometimes, but here's not so bad." She watched the sky for a while. The creature lay beside her feet, ears flicking lazily. She spoke again after a long pause. "I was raised to believe humans were weak, liars, dangerous, but you dragged me from the mud. You held me when I was bleeding. You fought beside me when your people doubted, and you never asked for anything." Jordan didn't know what to say. He had never done it for praise. He had just followed something deep inside that told him the right path didn't always have flags or medals. Sometimes it was just about doing the decent thing. Sivara reached into her cloak and pulled out a small pendant. It glowed faintly, Valarian design but ancient. She placed it in his hand. "This belonged to my mother. She said give it only to one I trust with my life." Jordan stared at it, then at her, then at the stars. He said nothing, but the look in his eyes spoke louder than words. The creature huffed gently and closed its eyes. Peace had found them at last. But neither of them believed it would last forever. Peace had to be protected. And they were ready. Peace shattered in the quiet hours before sunrise. A coded message slipped through the outer sensors of Orlis 9. It wasn't a war declaration or a fleet transmission. It was a distress call. From Kale-Zen's prison transport, the tribunal ship carrying the Warlord had gone silent en route to the council court on Varnak Prime. Tracking logs showed sudden rerouting, shields down, engines compromised, then nothing. Someone had taken him. The tribunal held an emergency meeting. Fingers pointed in every direction. Some believed the Velari loyalists had risen again. Others feared off-world mercenaries. A few even whispered that Kale-Zen had planned it from the beginning. Jordan was called in. Sivara stood at his side, her eyes sharp and steady. No one questioned her place anymore. The beast followed behind them, tail low and breath heavy. It sensed the tension in the air. "There is one last hidden base," Sivara said. "My father once used it as a fallback. If he escaped, he would go there." The tribunal gave them a single ship. No escorts. No backup. It had to be quiet. If the Velari learned that Kale-Zen lived and escaped, the fragile truce could shatter. Jordan understood. This was not war. This was a hunt. They launched at night, stars thick beyond the windows. The hidden base orbited a dead moon called Thylos Rin. Old ruins drifted through the sky like bones. As they approached, sensors flickered. Power signatures pulsed beneath the surface. They had found him. Jordan landed the ship near a collapsed structure. They stepped out together. Sivara's armor gleamed again. Jordan wore his old gear, patched and faded. The beast led the way, nose to the ground, growling low. Inside the ruins, shadows moved. Guards appeared, silent, armed, ready to kill. But Jordan moved fast, Sivara faster. Their weapons spoke in fire. The beast tore through enemies. With feral strength, no mercy, no hesitation, they reached the inner chamber. Kale Zen stood alone, a heavy cloak over his shoulders. Chains once used to bind him now lay broken beside him. He turned slowly. His face, scarred by pride and time, showed no fear. "You chose a human over your own blood," he said to Sivara. "I chose peace," she answered. He laughed once, cold, empty, then drew a blade. Sivara stepped forward. Jordan didn't move. This fight belonged to her. They clashed in silence. Blade against blade, wound against wound. It was not a battle of power, but of will. Sivara had bled for peace. Kale Zen had killed for pride. And when her blade shattered his guard, he stumbled back. She did not kill him. She dropped her blade and turned away. "Your war ends with me." "No more." Kale Zen reached for a hidden weapon. Jordan fired once. The old warlord collapsed. No glory, no redemption. Only dust and silence. They returned to Orlis 9 with his body. The tribunal confirmed his death. The war was over. Truly over. Sivara stepped away from the council. She and Jordan returned to the observation deck where stars burned bright. The beast lay between them, calm and content. They did not speak of war again, only of what came next. She smiled without sadness. Jordan reached for her hand. And in that moment, two former enemies stood together, not as soldier and survivor, but as something entirely new, peacekeepers of a future built by trust. And this time, they would guard it together.